This is the Harry Loomis Show. Welcome back to the Harry Loomis Show. It is now 7:48. I'm recording this about 5.5 hours after my video earlier today on the Cardinals. And since then, there's been a couple really sad bits of news that have come out first. Today, the sports world lost two legends. Dikembe Mutombo of the NBA died today of brain cancer. So thoughts and prayers go out to the Mutombo family and everyone in the NBA. Really sad story. Mutombo's one of the most beloved players of the 1990s and early 2000s. Um, it's his Geico commercial. I remember that as a kid. That was kind of my introduction to Dikembe Mutombo when he smacks the cereal box out of midair from that kid trying to toss in the cart and doing the finger wag and everything. Really just a lovable, fun, happy-go-lucky guy that had a huge impact on NBA and international players able to come into the league and make an impact. They were talking about on ESPN more international players on opening day 2024 than in any year beforehand, and guys like Dikembe Mutombo, Vlade Divac were a huge part of building that up. So really sad loss there. And also just breaking the past hour, Pete Rose, the all-time hits leader in MLB, died today at the age of 83. Obviously, there's, Pete Rose's name, there's a lot there. On the field stuff, off the field stuff. Purely on the field, he is one of, if not the best pure hitter of all time. He leads all of MLB history in hits, well over 4,000 leads, tied Cobb by a pretty good number. And he just played the game the way everyone is taught to play the game of baseball. His nickname was Charlie Hustle for a reason. Played every out, played every batted ball like it was his last, taking out catches in all-star games, full on diving all the way up in the air. He's got an iconic picture where he's about 2 feet in the air diving into a base like that. Obviously, he's not in the Hall of Fame because of being caught betting on games back in the 80s. I'm of the opinion that he should be in the Hall of Fame purely looking at what he did on the field. Yes, he left the sport in disgrace. Yes, it was against the rules. But purely on the field, Pete Rose is one of the best players in the history of baseball. Such an iconic figure, purely as a baseball player. Again, not talking about anything else behind the scenes. He should be in the Hall of Fame. And it is a shame that maybe they make that decision later on, but Pete Rose is not going to be alive to see himself get inducted into Cooperstown if that does happen one day. One more thing, I need to make a correction. I was mispronouncing Chaim Bloom's name in videos past and in my video today. Chaim Bloom, it was announced today that he was going to take over as president of baseball operations in 2026 when John Mozeliak's contract's up. My apologies. Did not mean to mispronounce his name. I hate making that mistake. So sorry, Chaim. I doubt he'll ever see this, but want to make sure that I get that cleared away. Now, we're going to talk about the St. Louis Blues. About 9 days away from opening day. And in the past week or so, a lot has been cleared up about the state of this team going forward and kind of what to expect come opening day. First off, I think we got a good indication of what to expect on Friday from Luke Korak. These were the lines for the Group A on Friday in training camp. It was Neighbors Thomas Cairo, Shen, Buchnevich, Bolduc, Holloway, Foxy, Joseph, Texier, Walker, Toropchenko, Letty, Pareko, Broberg, Falk, Suter, Kessel, then Tucker, P.O. Joseph, Perunovich, Bennington, and Hofer. And two things were pretty clear right from the start. Well, three things really. One, this is a pretty good idea of what we're going to see on opening day. That is an NHL roster. All those lines look about right. Wouldn't be surprised if that's more or less how they line up come opening night against Seattle. But number two, one notable omission was Brandon Saad. A lot of people thought he was going to get traded. I was even of the belief a little while back when they announced some moves like Holloway and P.O. Joseph, and Matthew Joseph in particular, and Radek Faksa, that they might not have room for a guy like Brandon Saad who can get you a pretty penny, scoring mid-20 goals the past couple years or so. I thought maybe he might be on the move. No, his wife is expected to go into labor here very soon, so there's a good chance that he will not be on the road trip to start out the season. So they're preparing to have those games without Brandon Saad. The third thing It was pretty clear from this that we were not going to see Dalibor Dvorsky in to start the season. He was not going to make the team out of camp based on what we saw here. You saw the lines in Group B, and he led that line with Saad and Kapanen. Obviously, Saad just getting a skate in, but expecting not to play those first couple games of the year. So Dvorsky was centering Saad and Kapanen. Zach Dean was on a line there as well. Those are some of the big names that seemed like kind of omissions in those opening lines. So we had a pretty good indication that that Dalibor Dvorsky wasn't going to make the team. The 10th overall pick had a really promising season in juniors in the OHL this past season, coming over from Europe, and that got confirmed Sunday morning when it was announced officially. 13 cuts were made. I think it was 13 cuts were made from the training camp roster, and among them was Dalibor Dvorsky. But the big thing to come out of that was that Dvorsky was not going back to the OHL. He was going to be assigned to Springfield, which means that there is a good chance that we could see Dvorsky still later on the season, depending how he adapts to AHL play. And I honestly don't have a problem with that. The depth on the wings, especially for the Blues, it didn't really seem like there was a place for Dvorsky, especially in the role that he could bring, middle six role. He definitely was going to get that, and how beneficial was it going to be to have him play fourth line minutes. I think it's a good step for him to move to the AHL because he looked good against competition his age, but I was at the preseason game Wednesday in Columbus, and he didn't do a whole lot against NHL competition that made it look like he was quite ready for a regular role in the NHL. I have no problem with this. I think that some seasoning will be good for him. I think we could see both him and Jimmy Snuggerud later on in the year at some point, and I fully expect him to be ready to go full-time come 2025, 2026. But a couple players in particular have looked promising the past couple preseason games. First off, like I said, I was at the game Wednesday in Columbus. Wasn't a very good game. Wasn't very promising, or wasn't very fun to watch for a Blues fan. They lost 3-0, gave up over 40 shots. Not a lot of NHL players in that game. Joel Hofer played the first 2 periods, gave up 2 goals. Didn't look terrible. He got peppered in particular in the second period, and the only goal he gave up was on a rebound to Kirill Marchenko, where he pretty much fed Tyler Tucker's food. Tucker kind of got twisted up like a pretzel, and Marchenko beat him to the spot on the doorstep. So that was a tough look for Tucker in particular. But I think the only main NHL guys that were there off the rip were Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, and Justin Falk. But one guy that was there that I thought looked good was Zach Bolduc. He was kind of a little bit everywhere. He was getting some time on the power play. He looked good on the first line with Kyrou and Thomas. He was mixing it up a little bit, getting a little bit physical. I think Bolduc has more than earned a spot in the top 6 to start the year. I don't think he's going to be playing with Kyrou and Thomas to start the year. I fully expect that to be Jake Neighbors on their wing. And I'll tell you what, I'm having a good time with that pairing, or with that line as a whole. So I think he would more than likely be on the second line. I don't know what exactly that's going to look like. Buchnevich is more than likely going to center that line. And whether Bolduc is on the left or right wing is kind of hard to say. Could be Brandon Saad with a more consistent role going forward. Could be Braden Shen. I think right now they're looking at playing Shen on the wing just based on what they have center-wise. You saw the practice lines. Radek Foxa was centering that third line, not Braden Shen. And I think it was Texier that was centering the fourth line. But that's another guy we want to talk about. Alex Texier and Dylan Holloway in particular looked really good on Saturday against Chicago. Holloway with 2 goals, the game winner. Him and Texier were really moving the puck nicely together. I would really like to see that as a third line group with Matthew Joseph probably on the right wing. He had a good game on Saturday as well. That's an underrated scoring line. Holloway could easily play top 6 minutes. I think having him on the third line with good line mates in, maybe it's Texier, maybe it's Joseph, maybe it is Shen, maybe Shen plays third line, maybe Foxa plays that third line a little bit more. I think there's enough versatility there that you can find a combination that works. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Dylan Holloway. I'm hearing good things about Philip Broberg as well. I think those are 2 really encouraging moves. to start out the year. So I'm really curious to see what happens at the start of the year, especially with those two. But I think if Holloway continues to play like he did on Saturday, that contract, that RFA tender, that's going to be such a good move to look back on for Doug Armstrong. The fact that he only cost a third round pick, still waiting to see a little bit more for Broberg, but we will see what happens there. But the other big news was that the Blues have agreed to a two-way deal with Nikita Alexandrov. He's been playing a lot in the preseason. He came in on a PTO, having already known the team. Pretty good spot for him to kind of show himself, and he did that. I don't think he'll be playing in the NHL, at least at the start of the year. I don't know if he'll be playing very much. Like I said, just kind of with the new forwards that the Blues brought in. I don't know if there's a regular spot for him, but he's a good guy to have on the team. He plays the right way, and I'm happy that that got resolved. So now there's only one restricted free agent that is yet to be signed, and boy, oh boy, do we need to talk about this. Jeremy Swayman has not signed a deal with the Boston Bruins, and today Cam Neely lit a fire under that situation with the quote, "I have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now." Cam Neely on Jeremy Swayman. That clip I got from Spittin' Chicklets. Yikes. So here's the situation. The Bruins came into the offseason knowing they had to move one goalie. It was a given, and they were going to go forward with Jeremy Swayman being the number one guy. That's why they traded Linus Ullmark to Ottawa for Joonas Korpisalo and a first-round pick. That might have been more to that trade, but that was the main parts of it. That was announced about 2 hours before puck drop of Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. So right away, you know the Bruins have to sign Jeremy Swayman. You don't make a move like that without a contract in place, a deal in place for Jeremy Swayman, right? Right? It is September 30th, and Swayman is not signed, and I think they are about as far away from signing a contract as you could possibly get right now. This is from Louis Gross, who represents Jeremy Swayman. Normally, I do not release statements or discuss negotiations through the media. However, in this case, I feel I need to defend my client. At today's press conference, $64 million was referenced. This was the first time that number was discussed in our negotiations. Prior to the press conference, no offer was made reaching that level. We are extremely disappointed. This was not fair to Jeremy. We will take a few days to discuss where we go from here. So this is getting wild. This is probably the wildest player RFA dispute since William Nylander in Toronto, where he ended up signing a contract pretty much at the 11th hour. And he even said he hated that process, didn't want to, wish he wouldn't have had to go through with that. But here we are again with the Bruins and Swayman. And I'm going to be honest with you, neither side looks good here, because is Swayman's management telling the truth that $64 million wasn't never offered? If so, Neely already has a bad luck making those comments out loud. That's even worse if they're telling the truth and they never got offered $64 million. However, if Neely's being honest here and they have offered $64 million to Swayman, I don't know how Swayman's expecting to get better than that. He played the most games of his career last year, right around 45, had good numbers, don't get me wrong. He's easily a top 8, 7, 6 goalie in the NHL based on his numbers last year and the year before that, but it was in a smaller role. Looking at comparable contracts, UC Saros just signed for under $9 million. Ilya Sorokin signed the year before under $9 million. Pretty objectively, I would take both of those goalies over Jeremy Swayman. Based on their career totals and probably right now, I would take both. If either Sorokin or Saros went to the Bruins, I think they would be just as good, if not better, than Jeremy Swayman. So in that aspect, Swayman shouldn't have any leverage because he hasn't played that many games, and they had an arbitration issue last year that he said he didn't want to go through. So this is why we're here. But at the same time, Swayman has all the leverage because they traded Linus Ullmark. They know that Swayman has to be their guy. They need to get this resolved. But making comments like this, they're farther away from an agreement now than they were 24 hours ago. I don't even know how close they were But this did not help at all. If you're Swayman and your president of hockey operations is making these comments, how are you going to go back and play for that guy? Airing out your dirty laundry for all intents and purposes. So where does this leave the Bruins? They already announced, Jim Montgomery announced that Eunice Corpusalo is going to be the opening day goalie, which is a disaster. Nothing against Corpusalo, but Swayman needs to be your guy, and you're already accepting the fact that he's going to miss big games. So do you trade him? And if so, who do you trade him to? This contract situation is a mess. Bissonnette keeps saying that the Red Wings would be a perfect fit. There is no way that they can afford to trade Jeremy Swayman to the Detroit Red Wings after already trading Omar to another division rival in the Ottawa Senators. Sweeney will be fired before he finishes that phone call if that's the case. Would that be a great fit? Yes, absolutely, in a vacuum. That's not going to happen. I don't know where this goes from here. I am fascinated to find out, and I would not want to be a Bruins fan right now because this situation seems like it's only getting worse, and I don't know where it goes from here. So let me know what you guys think. We're going to do some hockey predictions coming up here probably early next week, if not the end of this week. But I'm so excited for the season to get started, and that's going to be it for right now. I'm not going to do a NASCAR video today. I thought the race at Kansas was really good. Ross Chastain getting the win. My pick at Talladega is going to be Ryan Blaney. Blaney's always got to be the pick at Talladega. He's the man there. He's due for another big race after having a really good comeback yesterday at Kansas with having to pit with that loose wheel. So we're going to call that good for today. Thank you guys for watching the Harry Loomis Show. We'll talk to you again soon. This is the Harry Loomis Show.